You mentioned at your presentation that the books are closing for your Warsaw rights offering. How do you see the interest? I mean, you've been on a roadshow. What's the level of interest? Is it likely to be a success?
I think it will be a successful deal. So the books for the international institution investor are closing on Wednesday afternoon, because under Slovenian legislation we have to have a couple of days of preemptive right possibility for the preemptive right holders to subscribe the shares. So ultimately the books will close at the 19th or 20th of April.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to raise the targeted amount?
Yes, I think so. The demand is quite good, and the things are going well. Of course, also because of attractive valuation, and the bank is performing well. We do have, by my opinion, quite ambitious strategic plan, and that's everything what the investor wants.
How is the bank's bad loan portfolio developing? You mentioned that there will be a drop at the end of the first quarter compared to the end of last year. Have the NPLs peaked?
Yeah, well, NKBM predicted that we are going to peak our NPLs at the latest at the end of year 2010. And obviously we are quite right with our assumption that the peak will happen at the end of 2010. So in fourth quarter of 2010, we started aggressively to seize the collaterals and selling and cashing in the collaterals for the NPLs. And the results are coming in the first quarter of 2011, where we can be quite comfortable that the level of NPLs in end of the first quarter of 2011 will be below the level of NPLs in end 2010. The NPLs is not something that would be something weird in a time of recession, but it's just on a bank that reacts properly and starts to repay the NPLs and cleaning the balance sheet. So that's what we are doing.
Mm-hmm. What sort of level is that at the end of March, and what do you expect?
Well, the end of March, of course, is something we cannot say, because we have to publicly announce all the numbers. So I hope that you understand that. But the level of NPLs in end of 2010, it was on the bank side approximately 10.5%, and on the group level 12%.
How do you see the economic environment in Slovenia? I mean, recently the GDP growth estimates have been revised lower, marginally but lower. So what does that mean for your business and loan growth this year?
I think the majority of low predictions for the GDP growth come out of still trouble in construction sector in Slovenia. I think if we would exclude the construction sector, we would have at least 1 to 2 percentage points higher GDP growth, because the industry, who is mainly linked to exports, and majority is Italy, Austria, Germany and France, which are picking up quite good, especially Germany. That is already above the numbers we had from the pre-crisis. So the industry is doing very well, but the overall GDP growth is harmed by the construction sector. Those things can change when the construction projects started again. So I hope also that the government will boost some infrastructural projects, because that would help the entire economy quite substantially.
Have you got any forecast for loan growth?
The loan growth in Slovenia will not be substantial for the future years, since loan to GDP penetration level is approximately 94%. In emerging markets, the usual rate is approximately 50 or something, and in Western Europe it's approximately 120 to 130. So obviously Slovenia is somewhere in between. So we predict that the loan growth would be between 3 and 7%. It depends, of course, on the GDP evaluation.
This year or?
For the 2011, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not the total assets, but the loan growth.
What's the importance of expansion?
The expansion of our bank is the long-term growth story. We, of course, since we have a sound financial statements and we are quite good equipped with liquidity, we can grab some market share in Slovenia because of that. But of course that's something that will happen for next year and a half maybe. But long-term growth story can come out of the region. The region we are aiming for is basically ex-Yugoslavia, which is Southeastern Europe, the region where the most of the investments of Slovenian industries in, which creates also a natural market for us. We know the region, the language, the habits, so we think it's a valuable growth story.
Which countries in particular would you be interested in, and would you be able to name some?
Well, the primarily focus is on Serbia as the biggest market from that region, and of course Macedonia. Those both markets are still quite underdeveloped, and there is a high growth potential still there. Maybe also the specific is that we know those markets better, so we can use the possibilities better than the competition.
What are your further plans in Serbia? I mean, you already bought a bank there.
Yes, we bought a bank. We restructured it last year successfully. We are already generating profits from that market, but we would like to become one of the top 10 banks in Serbia, so we have to acquire additional market share through acquisitions or through organic growth, because we do need the volume. The banking is always about the volume, so we have to boost the volume in Serbia. Those are the general plans for that.
Nova Kreditna will be included in the EU's stress tests for the first time. What are your expectations in terms of the results? Are they going to possibly show that additional capital is needed?
I don't think so. I think that NKBM was also in a stress test, the first stress test, but it was not just it was not publicly published because it was the internal stress test of central bank in Slovenia. We passed it quite comfortably. And since our Tier 1 is mainly consisted out of core Tier 1 capital, which is approximately 7.5%, we think that we should be able to pass the test without any huge obstacles. Of course, the test is structured in a way that would think about the problems that could occur, but I think we are well equipped, so we should pass the test.
Fitch announced last week that it might downgrade the credit rating of your bank. So how are you trying to avoid that?
Well, basically, the biggest driver for that was because the government could lose the majority stake, but and the systemic support to the bank. But I think that NKBM, as the second largest bank, and that the government, even if they lose they will lose the majority stake, they will be the biggest shareholder of the bank. So from that perspective, I don't think we could lose the systemic support of Slovenian state. And with the new capital that we are going to raise, I think the bank will be equipped very well to sustain all the risk that we would be facing. So I don't think that it would be justified to downgrade the bank.
Are you aware of any plans on the part of the government to actually take part in the share offering?
Well, no, it's up to the shareholders to decide on that, so I cannot comment on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well.